Hey, I just wanted to try to come to you, even though I'm sick right now. I wanted to come to you and tell you something really incredible that the Lord revealed to me last night. Since Sunday night, I suddenly did not feel well. And needless to say, I'm on antibiotics and not feeling so great, so I'm just kind of laying low. But, in listening to somebody on YouTube talking about, did the Revelation 12 sign mean anything specific? As I mentioned before, when the Revelation 12 sign happened, I didn't see how it could be Revelation 12 because the two witnesses come before Revelation 12. So I was trying to figure that out, and I just did that video where I showed you that Joseph's dream, in that dream, the sun was supposed to represent Jacob, whose name became Israel. So I believe that that sign in the heavens had to do with Israel. And as I was pondering this, did the sign mean anything if it wasn't the sign that's in Revelation 12? This constellation is not something that just happened once, this alignment. Some people said that it was a once in a 7,000 year thing, but that was not accurate. It has happened actually many times before. So God just opened up something that I was just really blown away by this, and so I'm going to show it to you because this is an incredible revelation. As he was pondering, did the sign mean something that we don't know? I was thinking about it, and something just put the idea in my head. I wonder how many days went by from the so-called September 23rd, 2017 Revelation 12 sign, where you had the sun, the woman clothed with the sun, the moon at her feet. You had Jupiter in the womb and all of that, and then the king planet was birthed or whatever. And then you had the 12 stars up at her head. At Leo was above her head. And of course we know the lion represents the tribe of Judah, represents the Messiah, Yeshua. And it just dawned on me all of a sudden, and I was really, really shocked that God would show this to me. But I'm not a real big numbers person, I'm not one of those people that's trying to calculate all these dates and all of that. I just kind of stay away from all of that calendar stuff. I was actually researching something else, and this is what happened, was that I all of a sudden thought, I wonder how many days passed between the September 23rd, 2017 sign, the Revelation 12 sign, quote unquote, and how many days were between that and when the Pope signed the covenant, the document of human fraternity with the Imam of Egypt. And I thought, well, how am I going to calculate that? I'm going to have to go back to an old calendar and go 1, 2, 3, 4. And finally, I just decided to log in and see if there was any time and date calendar that could calculate it for me. And this document, this covenant with the Pope, with the Egyptian Imam, that took place February 4th of 2019. And it says the document on human fraternity for world peace and living together, also known as the Abu Dhabi Declaration or Abu Dhabi Agreement. is a joint statement signed by Pope Francis of the Catholic Church and the Sheikh Ahmed El-Tayeb, Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, on February 4th, 2019 in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. Now, if you listen to any of my prior videos about when that happened, I did one specifically that I realized, in Nebuchadnezzar's statue, the feet and the toes, they are iron mixed with clay. And we had actually, God was revealing to me at the time that the Pope signed that document, you had Rome represented by iron, the iron legs of Nebuchadnezzar's statue, which continue on into the feet of iron. But also ancient Egypt was known as the iron furnace. And so you had two sources of iron signing a covenant together. Two ancient enemies of Israel signing a covenant together. I believe the clay represents Israel because Jeremiah was told to do this in Jeremiah 19. This is what the Lord says: "Go and buy a clay jar from a potter. Take along some of the elders of the people and of the priests, and go out to the valley of Ben Hinnom, near the entrance of the potsherd gate. There proclaim the words I tell you and say, Hear the word of the Lord, you kings of Judah and people of Jerusalem. This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. Listen, I am going to bring a disaster on this place that will make the ears of everyone who hears it tingle. For they have forsaken me and made this a place of foreign gods. They have burned incense in it to gods that neither they nor their ancestors nor the kings of Judah ever knew, and they have filled this place with the blood of the innocent. They have built the high places of Baal to burn their children in the fire as offerings to Baal, something I did not command or mention, nor did it enter my mind. So beware, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when the people will no longer call this place Topheth, or the valley of Ben Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter. In this place I will ruin the plans of Judah and Jerusalem. I will make them fall by the sword before their enemies at the hands of those who want to kill them, and I will give their carcasses as food to the birds and the wild animals. I will devastate this city and make it an object of horror and scorn. All who pass by will be appalled and will scoff because of all its wounds." I do believe that they are the ones that have the deadly wound that was healed. I will make them eat the flesh of their sons and daughters, and they will eat one another's flesh, because their enemies will press the siege so hard against them to destroy them. Then break the jar while those who go with you are watching, and say to them, This is what the Lord Almighty says. I will smash this nation and this city just as this potter's jar is smashed and cannot be repaired. They will bury the dead in Topheth until there is no more room. This is what I will do to this place and to those who live here, declares the Lord. I will make this city like Topheth. The houses in Jerusalem and those of the kings of Judah will be defiled like this place, Topheth. All the houses where they burned incense on the roofs to all the starry hosts and poured out drink offerings to other gods. Jeremiah then returned from Topheth, where the Lord had sent him to prophesy, and stood in the court of the Lord's temple, and said to all the people, This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. Listen, I am going to bring on this city, that's Jerusalem, and all the villages around it, every disaster I pronounced against them, because they were all stiff-necked and would not listen to my words. And interesting, a footnote says the Hebrew word for ruin sounds like the Hebrew for jar in verses 1 and 10. So obviously the clay jar that Jeremiah shattered by the command of God was to show that disaster was coming upon Jerusalem and all its people, Judah and Israel. And that's what happened when the Babylonians came in and destroyed the temple and the city of Jerusalem. So they are representative, in my mind, of the clay of Nebuchadnezzar's statue, the toes of mingled with the iron and the clay. It's going to be this group of the two irons of the ancient enemies of God, making this covenant in Abu Dhabi, incidentally where they are setting up the worship of all three religions and any other religions coming there together to worship any god they want to, and making it a one world religion and calling it Chrislam. And they're setting that up in Abu Dhabi where they made this covenant together with the two sources of iron, which, as I just said, Rome was known as the iron of Nebuchadnezzar's statue with the legs, and it continues on in the feet. And Egypt was the ancient iron furnace, and they came together and signed a covenant together to bring forth the one world religion, bringing all kinds of gods to come together in that place. And so what's not going to mix is when you have the Jews on the Temple Mount, on Holy Mount Moriah, rebuilding their temple, which that's a whole big story in itself of what's going on behind the scenes. But they are representative of the clay that's not going to mix well with the iron. You can see how they're going to build a third temple here in Jerusalem, and then they're going to set up the situation in Abu Dhabi with that covenant, and they're going to collide. Now, of course, the Niwot Sanhedrin, as they call themselves, they want to replace the United Nations with representatives from the 70 nations there in Jerusalem, and have the Sanhedrin elevated as the world court, with them as the rulers over the whole world, giving their judgments and their rulings. And they are going to give a seat to the person that they are going to appoint as their Messiah, which, as we know, they don't accept Jesus and are very adamant about it. But there's a lot more involved in that. But basically the point of this video is to show you what God just revealed to me, and that was, getting back to what I was saying now that I've explained all this, was how many days were there between the so-called Revelation 12 sign, or September 23rd, 2017, and the two sources of iron making a covenant together in Abu Dhabi. The ancient enemies of Israel and Judah are signing this human fraternity document. How many days between the Revelation 12 sign and the signing of that covenant? And you're not going to believe this. So I type in the calculation of the dates, and it comes back exactly the number 500. There were 500 days in between those two events. So this was the actual results from timeanddate.com when I typed in those dates. From and including Saturday, September 23rd, 2017, to and including Monday, February 4th of 2019, result 500 days. It is 500 days from the start date to the end date, and end date included, or 1 year, 4 months, 13 days, including the end dates, or 16 months, 13 days, including the end date. So I thought, wow, 500, that's an unusual number. I mean, just 500 even. And I thought, I'm going to type this into Strong's Concordance and see what comes up. And you are not going to believe this divine revelation. Strong's Greek 500 is Antichrist. But the Hebrew for the number 500 means God ascends, or God goes up. So let me elaborate on Strong's Concordance number 500, Antichrist, one who opposes Christ. Usage is that Antichrist, either one who puts himself in the place of, or the enemy, opponent of the Messiah. Now, a further explanation of Antichrist by John, the only writer in the New Testament who uses it 5 times, he employs it, of the corrupt power and influence hostile to Christian interests, especially that which is at work in false teachers who have come from the bosom of the church and are engaged in disseminating error. It lists John 2:18, where the meaning is, "What ye have heard concerning Antichrist as about to make his appearance just before the return of Christ is now fulfilled in the many false teachers most worthy to be called Antichrist." It says, for Paul teaches that Antichrist will be an individual man of the very worst character. Now, how on earth did that happen? And I'm revealing that the Revelation 12 sign did have a lot more meaning than anyone knew, because it calculates to the signing of the Pope's covenant, iron and iron, the ancient enemies of Israel, making a covenant together where they're going to have all these false god religions as a one world religion. And then you've got the Jews over in Israel going to build the third temple. And of course, they're going to invite anybody who's worshiping any of their gods there. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but is it really ironic that the days between those two events was 500, and it's talking Antichrist that says it will be an individual man of the very worst character? And then it goes on to say, of the very worst character, instigated by the devil to try to palm himself off as God. The author of the Apocalypse discovers the power of Antichrist in the sway of imperial Rome and his person in the Emperor Nero, soon to return from the dead. That's what it says. They mention 2 Thessalonians 2, 3 through 10. And then they mention Revelation 13. The NAS Exhaustive Concordance lists number 500, Antichristos, as one who opposes Christ or the Messiah. So the Greek word is Antichristos, which is the Antichrist for the number 500, but the Hebrew is this word elale, which means God ascends. Or more properly, God is going up. What are the odds of that? That God would have me calculate the days between those two events, and it registers in Greek as the Antichrist, but then it also registers as something about the Lord. You know, he's going to come down, he's going to descend, but he's going to go up. He's going to take us up in the glory cloud. And those two things, the one going up is in Hebrew, and the one in Greek is revealing the Antichrist. So I just was astonished by that. I couldn't even sleep because I just thought, how on earth did God reveal that all of a sudden? Now there's a couple of other things about the number 500 that are interesting, one of which is that Noah was 500 years old when he became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now in Ezekiel 45, we also find that God had the number 500 as a very special number. This is when Israel is fully restored, and it's God speaking this. When you allot the land as an inheritance, you are to present to the Lord a portion of the land as a sacred district, 25,000 cubits long and 20,000 cubits wide. The entire area will be holy. Of this, a section 500 cubits square is to be for the sanctuary, with 50 cubits around it for open land. In the sacred district, measure off a section 25,000 cubits long and 10,000 cubits wide. In it will be the sanctuary, the most holy place. It will be the sacred portion of the land for the priests who minister in the sanctuary and who draw near to minister before the Lord. It will be a place for their houses as well as a holy place for the sanctuary. An area 25,000 cubits long and 10,000 cubits wide will belong to the Levites who serve in the temple as their possession for towns to live in. And then it continues on from there, but the point is that God has said that this is going to be the most holy place, this 500 cubits by 500 cubits special location within that territory, the inheritance of the Lord, and that's going to be the measurement of this area where the Holy of Holies is, 500. With the number 500 coming up between the signing of the two ancient enemies of Israel, signing the document, the covenant of human fraternity, to bring all these religions together to worship any god they want to in Abu Dhabi. Then you've got the Jews wanting to build the third temple, and this 500 cubits by 500 cubits is to be the sanctuary, the most holy place where the priests minister. So we've got the Antichrist represented in the sign of the 500. We've got God ascending with his saints. And we've got the temple of God, the inheritance of the Lord, with a special section 500 cubits by 500 cubits to be the most holy place to God, where the priests will minister to him. All of that is represented in the number 500, which happens to be exactly the amount of days between the Revelation 12 sign of September 23rd, 2017, and the signing of the Pope and the Islamic Imam from Egypt, signing their iron covenant together to bring all of these religions together. What are the odds of the Antichrist coming up in that number? The temple of God and his inheritance coming up in that number. And God ascending, which signifies the rapture of the church, with God going up and taking the dead in Christ that are going to rise first to meet the Lord in the air, with us who remain over and will be caught up, harpazoed, to meet the Lord in the air. And so shall we ever be with the Lord in the moment, in the twinkling of an eye. We're going to ascend up. So I guess I'll leave this for you to ponder. I mean, it's totally mind-blowing. And God was really showing me something extraordinary that you could not even cause this to happen, because these were two world events that were just major events that were signifying something, and here is what it's signifying. The Antichrist, the rapture, and the building of God's temple. And the fact that the Messiah is going to come again and establish his kingdom, and he's going to take his territory, and the Lord is telling Israel how much of the land to keep for his sanctuary in that number 500 in the most holy place. So I'll just leave you to ponder why this happened and why God just revealed this at this time. Because we are all waiting for the Lord to descend from heaven with a shout to take us up. And we know he's coming exactly how he went, but he's coming in the glory cloud to take us up, and we're going to ascend up with him. I just think, I just can't even believe this happened. And I was just thinking about the Great American Eclipse being August 21st, 2017. Between that and the Revelation 12 sign in the heavens, that happened to be between those two dates when my mom went to the hospital. As you can see, nothing seems to be any kind of coincidence at all. These are extraordinary discoveries that you just can't even explain it. It's something that God does that you just stand back and say, wow, that is super powerful. And so I wanted to share it with you because I just couldn't believe this happened. And it's incredible. And you're not going to believe this, but I was just looking down at my phone, looking at the news that happened today, and this article, How to Grow Figs in a Cold Climate, came up from the New York Times, showing ripe figs on a fig tree. And it says some fig varieties can produce two crops, an early Breta crop on last year's wood and a main crop like this one on new shoots. The cold climate fig grower gets the best results by focusing pruning and other efforts on the main season crop. You know, I have a huge story about the fig tree in my book, and it's really astonishing because it was all revealed by the Lord. But just take a look at this picture. So you mean to tell me that comes into my feed right as I'm ending this video, and people say that we're the fig tree generation, but there's a whole lot more meaning to the fig tree than that. It's astonishing. And I'm blown away. That just came into my feed just on its own. And God is showing ripe figs on this fig tree. Did anything more remarkable happen than that? That people are saying we're the fig tree generation, the one that's going to ascend up with the Lord. And all of these things are being revealed, and then God shows that all of a sudden on my feed. I didn't even look for that. So this ought to blow your mind, because this is happening right as I'm filming. and the figs are ripe in that picture. What does that tell you? That we're in the season and we need to keep looking up and watching for the Lord. Not only did God reveal things about the Antichrist there, but he revealed the rapture. He revealed the building of his temple and the portion he's going to get. And now he's showing that the figs are ripe. This is just crazy, guys. Absolutely amazing. Anyway, I'm going to sign off for now. And please pray for me because I haven't been well and I'm taking antibiotics, hoping to feel better. This is the first time I've been able to do a video for nearly a week now. So keep me in your prayers. And thank you for donations that people have sent in the past. They have really been a lifesaver. And I'm very grateful to you. And I thank you for blessing me. And thank you for a couple of people over the past couple of months sent a card. And I'm appreciative of that too. And I thank you for everything. God bless everybody, and I hope you're motivated to just sit in awe and ponder the greatness of our King at doing these things. And don't forget that the Pope's picture with the Egyptian imam, it said in the Catholic News Agency, Pope Francis signs peace declaration on human fraternity. Through that sign of the 500 days, is God revealing the identity of the Antichrist at the same time?